What's up, bros? Welcome to another Brograph tutorial. I'm Dave Koss. It's been a while, but I've been really busy. I've been on the road touring, doing some graphics work, and in the meantime, I've been experimenting with a couple different things. R16 has come out, and I've been experimenting with CUDA cores, that's GPU cores, and Octane renderer. And I am just ecstatic about Octane renderer, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it. This is a really brief overview on it today. I'm not going to dig down too far, but if you're interested in it, I'm going to tell you right now that it is well worth the money that you invest into it. Usually if you want to do something like network rendering to get a bunch of cores going, it's a big investment. Even if you could find a $400 computer, it's going to take quite a few computers before you can cut your render time in half and then in half again, and so on and so on. What's really great about GPU rendering is that everything runs in parallel. So instead of each individual, I don't know what you would call it, I guess each individual piece of information going through a CPU one at a time, you've got all these cores GPU running parallel, so they all kind of happen at the same time. And if you've been hearing about Octane, like I have here and there, hearing that it's good and it's going to be in Cinema 4D, but if you really haven't investigated it, like I hadn't at first, you may not know how incredibly awesome this is. Now, in order to use Octane, you have to buy the base license for Octane Renderer. You have to buy the Cinema 4D plugin. In American dollars, it comes out to about $600, which it is so worth it, and I'm going to show you why. One thing that you do have to have is you do have to have some sort of NVIDIA card, and I've got to admit that I am not very savvy when it comes to video cards, just because I don't update them that often. I got a big beefy system here that I put together a long time ago, and I know a lot's changed, and I don't always keep up with graphics cards. So I did a little bit of research, and now NVIDIA makes their own chip for video cards, but then there are different brands that carry that NVIDIA chip, and that was the one thing that I didn't understand at first. So this EVGA GeForce GTX 760, it's $279, which is pretty good. This is a super clocked, it's like an overclocked card, and you can run up to 3 of these together in a computer if you have an what is it called, an SLI motherboard. Problem is, if you're like me, there's the issue of if you're on a Mac, what are you going to do about that? Now, if you're watching this and you're on a PC, this is probably going to be easier for you to do. Although a lot of this will be relevant. I bought one of these and like it so much that I installed 2 of them together for someone else, and I was like, this is amazing, I got to get another one. So this is my second one that I'm going to put in the same machine. If you're working on a Mac, here's the dilemma. You have to have a PCI Express card. That only happens if you're in a Mac Pro. There are other options that you have. You can get a PC if you want to go that route, but you can also get, there are PCI expansion boxes, and here's the problem with those. It's great if it's Thunderbolt, you can hook them up, but they're expensive. They're $400 or so. Some of them are more. If they have 2 slots, this will only fit 1 because it's a wide card. It's a tall card, I guess. That kind of applies with the Mac as well, but I'm gonna tell you the secret here. These cards can go in, even though they're not Mac compatible. Technically, they can go into the Mac Pro, and you can put up to 2 of them in there, and it is more worth it for you to spend the money to buy an older Mac Pro tower than it is to get those little expansion whatchamacallits, so you could hook it up to like a MacBook Pro or the new Mac trash can or something like that. I found an 8-core Mac for less than $1,000, and it's more worth it than buying the external cases, because it's going to cost you more money for those cases, and might as well spend that money on a computer, right? So here's how you set it up. You take this card out, you put it in the computer, and disclaimer, if you screw something up, it's not my fault. Do your research. I did a lot of research, made sure I knew exactly what I was doing before I did this. You take the card, you put it in the computer with everything off, everything unplugged, of course. You're going to have to buy a separate power supply because there's the 6-pin and the 8-pin power cables that go onto the card, and there is absolutely no way that the existing power supply is going to power this. This is a beefy card. I was originally told, and I was wrong, or that person was wrong, that this would take maybe a max of 350 watts. So when I went ahead and did the 2-card install, I got a 700 and something watt power supply, just so it would be a little bit neater. And the problem is, it wasn't enough power. So I had to go back and do a power supply for each card, unfortunately. So what this says on the box is you need a 500 watt power supply. Now, I thought that meant in your computer. Well, you really need that for both. I actually ended up with a 650 watt power supply. This has to stay on the outside of the computer. Unfortunately, if you want to put 2 of these in, it's only going to fit those 2 in your PCI slots. That's it. Now, here's the thing about these. If you have these external and they're not attached to a motherboard, they're only powering something, then you need to have a jumper on these. There's a green and black cable, which are, it's basically just a signal to power on, and it goes to ground, and it tells this fan here to stay on. I'm using this ultra professional brand or whatever, because if you can see here, there are these little places where you can plug in on the back the cables that you need, and you don't have all the extra cables, which can be a big mess if you have all these cables you're not using. So I jumped on where you would plug into the motherboard. I jumped the 2 cables so that this power supply stays on all the time. It won't stay on if it's not plugged into a motherboard and the computer's not on, so you're tricking it. The other thing that I found out the hard way is that if you have FireWire interfaces with audio, such as my speakers in here, this is actually why I'm late doing this, because the microphone was getting all sorts of hum. My speakers, my output was getting a whole bunch of hum. Here's what you got to do with these power supplies. You have to take a ground as well out of that same deal where you jump the cables to trick the power supply into staying on. You have to do a ground, and you have to ground it to your case. Then you have to take the power cable, the IEC cable that's plugged into that power supply, and cut off the ground. So you have one common ground. You still want a ground that's coming through, and it's going into your case, which is going to your other power supply. But if you don't do that and you have audio stuff going on, you're going to get a horrible hum, and there is no way to get rid of it. I tried. So it's all about the ground. You got to take care of that. So you've got your power supply, and that's hooked up to the card. It could be a little bit messy. I got pictures and video of what it looks like. You can see the power supply going in there, and it looks even more Frankensteinish now that I've got 2 power supplies going to 2 cards. But it's definitely worth it. As far as I can tell, it does actually double. Since it's in parallel, it does actually pretty much double the amount of render time you get if you get 2 cards. There are more powerful cards than this. The thing is, I'm utilizing it for CUDA. I know that this works with Mac. There is the Quadra K1000, I believe, that is $1,000. And if you end up getting that, you get just about as many CUDA cores as if you buy 2 of these. So $270 for this card, $600 for the renderer, and maybe $60 for the power supply. That's a really good deal for what you're going to get to use Octane. And I'm going to show you now what you can do with Octane. It's really incredible. So you got everything installed. This works in the same type of manner V-Ray works. So if you have not seen my intro to V-Ray, it actually will kind of apply to some of the stuff that's in here. The way the tags work, the way the materials are their own special materials, all that is just like V-Ray. So if you're familiar with any of these kind of third-party renderers, you're going to be very comfortable with this. In fact, it's a little easier to use than these, to tell you the truth. The materials convert really well. If you don't convert a material, it's still technically there. It doesn't come out black like in V-Ray. You can have a camera, like a default camera, without putting a tag on it, unlike V-Ray where just you won't see anything. So here's kind of how it works. I got this cube, and what you're going to see, keep in mind, I haven't put in my second card yet, and I've done this with 2 cards, and it's incredible. It's already fast, as you're going to see here, but it's even faster with 2. I'm just going to create an Octane basic shader. If you have a texture already, you can convert it. The only thing I don't like about it is it just assumes everything's a glossy, reflective texture, like right off the bat, which is a little annoying. But here's my Octane material. I'm going to throw it on this cube, and I'm going to do a plane and make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to throw the same material on here. So I just got a cube on a plane. Real simple. My Octane menu, I'm going to turn on the Octane dialog. Be using this a lot, and I'm going to turn on the live viewer window. Now, I'm going to hit this button. What this button does here is it kind of does a refresh, and it will load this geometry into your live viewport. Okay, so here we go. Now here's the cube. It's sitting on top of this, but I have no light. There's 2 ways you can do this. You can make a light, and you can go to tags and go to Octane tags and add your light tag, kind of like in the V-Ray tutorial. The easiest way to do this is you can actually go up to objects here in this Octane, what is it called? The Octane dialog. And you can add kind of preset lights and stuff like that with the tags already attached. So like here I'm going to do daylight, for example, and by default it's kind of a dusk or dawn, and you can adjust the light. I'm turning it the wrong way, but okay, there we go. You can adjust the light. Now you'll notice that this is updating nearly real time, and it's twice as fast with 2 cards. It's incredible. I can't stress enough how like game changing this is, and if you've been hearing rumblings about this, it really is worth it. I'm rendering out scenes that used to take a day in like 30 or 40 minutes. It's incredible, and that was with a render farm, and now I'm just using 2 cards, and that's it, and it's super fast. So look, I'm rotating, I'm moving around the scene, and I'm seeing it in real time, and it's kind of grainy, but as soon as you let go, it renders out. Now even in this window it's not perfect, but you do have options to up these render settings, but still, this is incredible. The thing about working in this environment is, you know, as a 3D animator, if you just are working on a scene and it's really complicated, it's hard to get an idea of what you're doing. You might kind of see it, you might be able to do a low-res render, but you're not getting that real-time feedback. This is like a whole new way of working. To be able to be in a scene and setting it up as if it were just already rendered nearly. It's a really incredible thing, and it's so fast. So, you know, you're looking at this and you're thinking, oh, well, that's not a big deal because those are simple textures. So I will show you some examples. Here is something cool about Octane Render. It has this DB for database right here. If you click on that, it actually brings up a material database, and this is what's awesome, because even with V-Ray, you know, you got to go to the website and find stuff and try it and go back and forth. This is all included in here, and this works fairly well, even though this is, I think, technically considered a beta. So if I want to look through, look, I've got skin, vegetation, wood. Look at all this awesome stuff that I can just start out with. So even if I don't know exactly how to build these types of materials, I can start with one and see how it's built and kind of play off of it. So let's say I want a wood texture. I click on this wood. Actually, this one's called bamboo. So let me click on the bamboo texture I want. Actually, change my mind. I want to show off some reflection while we're doing this here. I'm going to pick this wood texture down here, and there's a download button, and so it sits there, it downloads the texture. There it is in my scene already. That's awesome. Drag it. I'm going to drag it on my cube as well. Now I got to refresh, so I'm going to sit here and refresh this. Look, I have got shadows, I've got reflections, I've got all sorts of stuff going on here, and look, it's happening in real time. Look, I believe there's even a bump going on in here. This is real time. Totally real time. That is absolutely amazing. That's going to get dark in my viewport. I'm going to change this to like a quick shade or a constant shade or something. Oh, that's weird. I should be seeing that a little brighter in here. I'll have to investigate that later. So yeah, absolutely amazing. And now I'm going to show you a more difficult scene. So I've got a couple other things. I had a guitar that was kind of cool that I was working on. Where is that thing? And the guitar was actually something I did a long time ago, and I've already got it open. I started retexturing this basically, so it's not quite done yet, but you'll be able to see a good example here. Here's a guitar. I built this from scratch. Spent quite a bit of time on it actually. So now, I mean, it looked great, but now I'm retexturing it for Octane. If I click this button, I'll get the viewer to come back up. So you can see here it says exporting. It's exporting the geometry. That's what a lot of your time is. Having to do the actual export. If you only render one frame, you're going to have the export time plus the render time, but then it doesn't have to export again for every frame. Once you got the geometry locked in, you're good to go. So it's not quite done, but if I rotate around, I mean, look at the amount of reflections and all of this detail that it is calculating here nearly on the fly. It's pretty incredible. If I move up, it's stalling out a little bit on me here. It should catch up though. If I move up further though into like the chrome textures and stuff up here, I mean, look at this reflection. It's absolutely incredible. This is like a 100% chrome, so it's pulling in a lot of reflections. I mean, rotating around. I mean, look how those reflections just respond on the fly. Just absolutely amazing. So, I mean, you can see the sun there. You know, and if I move the sun, that's what's great. You can light the scene. You can change the scene. You know, while you're setting it up to make the look of the scene look just right. You know, it's something that you might be able to get close to if you're using a different renderer, but it's a lot of guess and check. I mean, this scene would take a long time to render to see if your sun's in just the right spot. And if it's not, then you got to move it a little and you got to try it again. This particular scene here, I kind of rendered out just to get a good idea of time. This took, I believe it was like 45 minutes. And theoretically, it should be half that if I put in this new card. I'll let you know about that. So, look at that. 90 frames here. Just think about how long some of these reflections and blurry reflections and mirrored looks and bump maps, everything would just take so long to render. In just an average renderer, a physical renderer. That's what these CUDA cores are about. There's, I believe, something like 2,300 CUDA cores if you have 2 of these cards. And here's another example too. I've got one here called Walls, which is also already open. So I have a little scene set up here that I've been working on. And it's supposed to kind of look like a treehouse, or I guess it is a treehouse, but it's kind of a digital set that I'm working on, and there's quite a bit of reflection in some of this stuff. There's quite a bit of detail, like there's some rose bushes up here. I've got a basketball goal. These are supposed to have hair on them, these toys. I haven't gone down that road yet of really testing hair with this system. I imagine it's great. I just haven't gotten that far yet. But I just have to tell everybody about this renderer because I think it's fantastic. I'll hit the render button here. This one is kind of a complicated scene so far, so it may take it a second to do the actual export before it starts rendering. I'll take a sip of coffee. Still well worth the wait. See, it exported 3.5 seconds. Then it will kind of sit here, and you'll see a little thing come up at the top, and I think it says waiting or something like that. But once it gets loaded up in this viewer, you're pretty much good to go. Because it is technically a beta, I have had a couple crashes from time to time. It's nothing major. It's been pretty much stable as far as I can tell. I'm really enjoying working with it. But you can see how cool this scene looks already just by throwing some stuff in here. And I can move around, take a look at everything in it. It is absolutely amazing. I'll try and go in here on this rose bush and let you see the detail. I forget how many polygons are actually in this rose bush, but look how great that looks. Imagine trying to accomplish this with anything else, honestly. Again, here's a great example of what you can do with light. I'm going to turn on, I have kind of a more of a dusk light going on here. You know, if you wanted to set up the scene, you wanted to put the sun in just the right place. You know, get it right in between. You see how it's hitting the glossiness of that wood texture right there? Say you wanted to get the sun just in the right spot in between these slats. It's going to be really difficult to do without being able to see it in real time. You know, if you want to take the sun and try and get it, there we go. Get it just right there. Sun's coming through. Have to make some adjustments on the brightness and stuff. It's a little too bright, but you could not do that without being able to see this kind of on the fly here. Look at that, and see the bump texture there. Absolutely amazing. Now here are some other things about this. You could pause, like if you don't want that real-time feedback and you want to do something real quick in your viewer, you can pause. You got a million settings. Up in these settings, you've got some great post settings you can enable if you want. Your camera imager, you have a lot of presets, which are really cool. You've got priority. You've got your GPUs that you can select. If you have 2 of these, the second card will appear here. You can check that too. Cameras. Oh wait, before I do that, there's this little section right here. It looks like kind of an HDR map. You can hit that and get kind of a clay feedback, which is useful sometimes. You can also do it without any reflection or bump or anything like that. And you hit it a third time and it goes back to the full version of your render. Then on camera, you can also add tags just as you would in V-Ray. Am I looking for Octane? Undo camera tag, and then you can start setting things like depth of field, which is really easy to use in here. You can go to your camera imager, turn it on. Then you have full control of things like f-stop and ISO, which ISO only goes up to 800. And I think that's more about controlling your depth of field with ISO and f-stop rather than actually, like, you know, brightness and gain like you would in a real camera in this case. exposure, full control like you would with a camera. You've got gamma, saturation, vignetting, all of that, and you have all these really cool presets that are like classic cameras. You've got like or film like Kodachrome, and it just resets all this camera information here. I'll kind of move around there, and there you have it. Off the top of my head, I'm trying to figure out if there's anything else. Materials are great, but you can see here, you know, there is a lot to learn as far as materials go. When you use different render engines, the materials are always set up differently, so you got to kind of go in and learn that. I don't plan on going too in-depth in tutorials on how to use Octane, because there actually is a really great video series. I'm going to link to it here as well as in the blog post on the site for this particular tutorial. I wish I could remember the name of the guy right now, but he wrote or he videoed like an entire training deal on how to use this in Cinema 4D, and I downloaded it myself because it was like 75 bucks. So I don't really see the point in me kind of redoing what he's done at this point, but I really feel like this is something that needs to be thrown out there, because it truly is incredible to work with, and it's really changed everything about Cinema 4D for me personally. I can't imagine not using GPUs at this point, because it's going to seem like such a waste of time. So hopefully I've covered everything. I know that the initial setup, getting the right card, getting everything in there is you know, possibly a challenge for a lot of people that aren't too tech savvy and don't want to mess with wires and junk on their computer. But feel free to email me or get in touch with me or Matt on Twitter or on Facebook or on the YouTube comments, and you know, if you have any questions, maybe we can point you in the right direction. I found a lot of videos that really helped me choose the right card and get everything set up the way that it needed to be in order to do this. And now that I've done it quite a few times, it's actually a breeze, and it's so worth it. It's so worth the money. If you have absolutely nothing at all except for a Mac Pro Tower, or let's say you have nothing at all but Cinema 4D. Let's say you have Cinema 4D and you want to get this Octane render and you don't have a tower. For about $2,300, which I know that's steep for some people, you can have this up and running. But if you think you can make money off of it and you think it's going to increase your efficiency, it might be worth it. If you can get a $1,000 computer and a $600 renderer, and you already have Cinema 4D, then you just need the power supply and the graphics card. So it's another 60 bucks, $270 per card. You pick how many cards you want, and it is well worth it. Think about what other render engines cost, and think about how much time you're going to save and how much money you're not going to spend on like CPU power. Who wants CPU power at this point? It's all about GPU. So hopefully that's a nice intro for a lot of you. If you have any questions, again, get with us on social media. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'd love it if you do that, because it really gets the word out about Brograph. We plan to do more. Please also subscribe to the newsletter if you feel inclined. We barely ever put anything out, and it's usually big chunks of updates and maybe like, I don't know, 6-month chunks about what we're up to and what we plan on doing. So we're not going to bug you a lot. And that just about wraps it up. So until next time, have a good one. Later, bros. It's pretty good, I guess.